Hi, today is my Talk Trash Tuesday, and today we're gonna talk that shit. Okay? So hold on. Let's get it rolling. Okay. So, today is my Talk Shit Tuesday, right? So, one of the things that I want to talk shit about is number one. Okay. All of the migrants, everybody that has immigrated here to America, has consequently came here to make money. They came to America to make money. They've gotten to the point where this is what they say: America is only for making money. So if America is only for making money, what does that mean? You plan on, going back to live somewhere else? Yes, maybe you do. So you make money here, then you go back and live someplace else in prosperity, right? Is that it? Yeah. I want to know. So, all these people claiming to be Americans, why are you still doing business with your country of origin? Why? Right? So that was one of the things that, have blew my mind, because I'm like, I thought we threw the tea into the sea. Didn't we? Oh, now, here's another thing I want to talk about, right? I want to talk about Islam and the Muslims. The way that they are indoctrinated. I promise you, if I trained my dog to obey me the same way that people are supposed to train to be Islamic or a Muslim, my dog would have no identity. I promise you, she would not. She would not. Right? She would have no identity. Let's be real. She would get, constant training at least 6 times a day, right? Because that's when you're supposed to pray. All of these Muslims out here are supposed to pray 6 times a day. Are they? Probably not. Right? They probably might say inshallah 6 times a day, and figure, well, yeah, that's enough. Okay. Or alhamdulillah, right? Can they condense it? They're not supposed to, do they? Probably. Here's another thing. When you live in a Muslim country, they sing the Quran over microphones throughout the city, day in and day out. Okay? So, if I'm constantly training, like I said, I'm training my dog, and I'm like, putting a recording, in my dog's, vicinity, in her environment, all day long. She hears my voice all day, singing. She hears my voice quite a bit, but not all day, right? And definitely not one that's, Anyway, let's just keep it real. The brainwashing is consistent. It's all day and all night, throughout the day. And you have to also make the sacrifices. What are the sacrifices? Ramadan. That's the sacrifice. During Ramadan, this is where you have to fast and pray to God. Okay? And this is man's religion. Right? I personally, don't see myself doing that. Okay? I just don't. And they can call me a heathen if they want to. But you best believe, even though they called me a heathen, I probably am more innocent than they are. Because let's keep it real. I mean, is it about purity and innocence? Or is it about passing judgment on other people because they're not worshiping the same God? And then you're saying that you're punishing these people because they're not going to heaven, or they're not going, to be with Allah, or they was created without the permission of God to be on this earth. So you think that now you had the right to take them off the earth? Come on now. This is talking trash. For real. Okay? Now, there are a lot of beautiful things about every religion. There are. But just like there's some beautiful things about a religion, there's some bad things about a religion. Just like, even in Christianity, right? Christianity can be such a beautiful thing, right? Because it's so loving, so caring, so charitable, so graceful, and so considerate. Okay? However, when we see somebody get too involved or too possessed by the spirit of Christianity, they no longer are themselves. They become a whole entity that pretty much lacks empathy. Like, how did that happen? How? It just does, right? Kind of like that saying, too much of anything is not a good thing. Yeah, kind of like that. Oh my. The gasoline had went up 30 cents. So, it's hot. 93 degrees out here. I'm supposed to be going to go work out, but I've been wanting to talk my trash. Alright? I want to talk my trash. So, I already talked my trash about man being, made in the figure of God, but he has to come through the vagina of a woman. Yeah. The lies. Why do you want to force feed us these lies? Right? And I do mean force feed, okay? Because they will penalize you. They will wage war. They will exile you. They will beat you. They will torture you like they did Jesus. And say, this is your cross to bear, bitch. And then, as if you being hung up on the cross was not enough, right? They'll stab you so you can feel an extra wave of pain. Yeah, this is man, right? And then after you die, they'll say, oh, you were such a great person to die for their sins, right? They committed sins on you, and they're like, yes, you were so great. And that's the psychosis of man. And I know a lot of them don't even understand why they have psychosis. Well, they have psychosis because they were inbreded. They were inbreded on purpose with a purpose. Okay? And the inbred was because they were so in love with what they wanted that they inbred it. Yes. And that can go through every single culture and race that we have upon this planet. Yes. Okay. And that goes with the patriarchy, right? Because man is, men have these arousals, and they think these arousals are the gift from God. Woo! Yeah. And they're like, how could it not be, But, when I think about it, I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, by the time when we first come on this earth, right? When we first come on this earth, we don't have these arousals, right? And then when we leave this earth, we don't have these arousals. So, the only time we have these arousals is when we're at our peak, middle-aged on this earth, right? And we are really in our alter ego, right? We're not in our ego, we're in our alter ego. Our alter ego. And thank you to Beyonce, who had, brought that term to our mind, right? She's like, I'm in my alter ego when I become Sasha and I get up on that stage. Yeah, she's her alter ego. That's not who she is in real life, but that's her alter ego. Right? And we love that for her, because at least she distinguished, what she does for money, is different than who she is. And we love that for her and all women. Okay? We love that for us. So yeah. So, yeah. So then we find out that Trump is telling these people, oh my gosh, Europe has been taxing American imports 15% tariffs, right? And that's why Trump was like, bet, I'm gonna tax you, right? Now, because, Europe wants to be on top, right? And let's be real. Why do I say Europe wants to be on top? Well, Europe wants to be on top because they want to keep the euro number one, right? And Trump is like, well, I don't see how, the euro is number one. Y'all don't have the education. Y'all don't have the infrastructure. Y'all don't have, the ability to create, upon a land that has all the seasons. Create what? Food. right? America has all of that, right? America has all of the seasons. That's why America feeds the world, because America has all of the seasons. Yes, it does get hot in some places, but you know, the times that it gets this hot, this is the time that, you know, we're eating tropical fruit. Yes, it gets cold, but this is the time that we will eat, you know, winter fruits and vegetables. Okay, so Trump held out, right? Trump had held out the taxes, the tariffs, right? And said, okay, you want to put tariffs on American stuff? America started putting tariffs on foreign stuff. Now, America, you know, hasn't done like some of these countries who have just said, no, you know, we're not going to accept these American products into our country, which, you know, we've seen it, right? And, you know, some Americans, you know, they were like, okay, you know, you don't have to say that it's American. You know, you could repackage it, you could relabel it, and say that it's yours and that you're doing it. It's your product, blah, 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 right? And they were doing that, okay? Because I've spoken many times about repackaging, you know, remarketing, and reselling. Okay? That's a lot of times the main reason why people will buy in bulk. People will buy in bulk for the purpose of repackaging, renaming, and reselling. Because they can't resell somebody else's product that has a patent and a copyright without getting penalized or sued. Okay? So yeah, and I've seen it, where, you know how you'll see somebody and they'll have like these gigantic containers of soap and fabric softener, and they will sell it, but they'll put it in their own little containers, you know, whether their containers are, you know, shelf stable or not, you know, they're just out to make money. All right. So, yeah, this Talk Trash Tuesday is a beautiful thing, right? And you know, Trump had to put out, you know, 100% tariff threat on European countries, telling them that if they decide to ban any of our platforms, any, right? Not just X, not just, no, Instagram, no, not Facebook, no. But if they decide to ban any of our platforms, America has given them the threat that they will face 100% 100% tax on everything that America ships over there. Ooh, you talk about financial warfare. Shit. Okay. And as a result, Trump doesn't expect to see a problem in the future when it comes to doing attack. These platforms, because these platforms, they're all about communication. This communication is causing people to learn, be informed, make money, do marketing, and it's even allowed some people, to imagine, what it's like in another country, another realm. Yeah. So, we're not going to sit up here and keep putting out that threat that, we're going to, get rid of a device because, people don't want to monitor and make sure that, people stay in compliance, right? So that's what the deal is. The deal is compliance, right? They don't want to spend the money, or they're saying the money's not worth it to make sure that the people on these platforms stay in compliance. And Trump's already letting them know, listen, don't say that, okay? Because if you start losing stock, right, and you don't have, the majority stock holdings on your stock, when it comes to these platforms, you can be forced out, right? So don't think that these billionaires have complete and utter control, because they got control while they still have at least 51%, right? They have 51% ownership in the corporation. But when they decide it's not worth it, or, they get fined and they have to sell stock because they're out of compliance, that's how they lose that shit. That's how they lose that shit. Oh yeah, this is Talk Shit Tuesday. Talk Shit Tuesday. Hold on. So in my mind, I'm sitting up here saying, well, why did the gasoline go up 30 cents? Oh, the gasoline went up 30 cents because it's rumored, let's say it like that. It's rumored that, Iran has breached the treaty of letting these passages go through. Okay? So, let's keep it real. Let me go back to what I was saying from the very start. Like, when you're a Muslim and you sit up here and decide the only way to protect the women and children of your family is by keeping them in a compound, right? You're telling the world that, well, you just put your children in a prison, and the only way, your enemies can get to them is by, invading your prison, right? That's crazy work, because the whole thing is that you should be learning to cooperate. Now, I'm starting to see a lot of people out here, covering their head and their bodies because of the heat. Understandably, if you're saying to the world, well, it's so hot in Turkey or Palestine or Mongolia or Iran or in the desert, that it behooves a person to wear a sheet. Okay, we understand that, right? We know. Oh my gosh, getting hit with microparticles of sand can be excruciating, especially in the heat, and your body's inflamed already because of the heat. But when you try to make it seem like, no, that's not the reason why you're actually covering all of your body, it's because of some religious purpose, then we start having a problem. I was watching this video where these women was chastising a woman running in shorts and a sports top. I can't remember if it was a halter or if it was like a tank top, but it didn't matter to these women. These women were like, nah, bitch, you need to cover yourself up, right? And it was so funny because this guy was looking at this, and this guy was an Arab, but I believe he was born in Australia. And he said it. He was like, these women are so afraid that their husbands will lust after these women, or to the point where they'll take it out on her, or they'll want this woman more than them and drop them, right? And the thing about it is, a lustful man will do what lustful men do. They'll either do it in your face or they'll do it behind your back, right? And they will say, they did it because they thought they could get away with it, right? And in their minds, it was like, not only did they think that they could get away with it, but they may never have that opportunity to do that, right? Because like I said, we all are going through, our own personal developmental stages, right? And men, they already, realize that, their arousals, start to come few in between, right? When men are at their peak, they have an arousal every morning when they wake up, right? And of course they go to the bathroom, and and then they just they chalk it off to, well, maybe they was just had to pee. Okay. So wow, it is really nice down here by the lake. It's 2 o'clock. There's hardly anybody down here. What I like most about it is the fact that most of the people that I see you know, they're women. Okay, so I'm running out of storage, so that might be the end of my Talk Trash Tuesday on this video.